Monday, December 8th, 2025. Everyone, Natalia is on the wire. You can hear us?
Yes.
Okay. I think that'll cover that base. That brings us to our first item, which is public input. This is when anyone who wants to talk to us about something that's within our purview and is not otherwise on the agenda. This is your chance. Raise your hand out on the internet or in the room or up here.
I
Don't see anyone.
no hands on Zoom.
Okay. That brings us to action items. Let's see. Let me just check. Acceptance vote annual parking and traffic demand management report for the Tufts Grafton campus / stormwater maintenance plan certification from Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine. Tufts.
So I'll just do a brief intro and give the Tufts team an opportunity to add anything that I might be missing. But this is the annual certification of the parking and traffic demand management, as well as this certification of compliance with the stormwater O&M plan. So this is required through the zoning every year for verification and approval by the board, and we use it as a kind of a benchmark to gauge, how the board gauges reviewing future plans and kind of balancing parking needs and demand versus supply. I did do a chart here just kind of outlining the differences between reports received since FY22 through now. You can see that there's obviously parking supply is increased over the years, and demand is fluctuating, but the university does have sufficient parking available. One thing that I did note, and maybe the Tufts team will be able to clarify, I believe Heidi is here, I don't think that this report that was submitted included the 150 spaces that were permitted by the board in April of 2025. So that's another 150 spaces that it appeared, that you can add to the supply that was reported for this year. So one other thing that I would like to call out is that this will be discussed later, but we did receive some parking numbers from Tufts that are slightly different than this, and that that will be evaluated during the public hearing process, but that verifies that there's even more spaces that are available on campus than what's listed here. So there's a little bit of back and forth. I think it's just two different people preparing two different things. So there's actually probably closer to, I think, 1,050 spaces that are actually in the parking supply versus the demand.
Yeah. When we get down to the public hearing tonight, they're talking about some additional parking spaces. Does this is before before the changes that hearing is about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was interested to see that we're talking about essentially 1,000 parking places over there.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest entity parking for the biggest amount for any entity in Grafton by quite a lot. It's probably more than even the Wyman Gordon lots were when they were fully used, I suspect.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have anything they want to talk to us about on this? Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Hand in the audience.
Oh.
Hi, Good evening, Robert Corbett, Executive Director of Planning, Design, and Construction for Tufts. I just want to clarify something that Fiona said, just because, it's pertinent to the next discussion, which is that the parking report for June of 2025 included the temporary lot that eventually became the permanent lot. So we did not add an additional 150 spaces this year. There were approximately 90 already in the temporary lot. So the net gain between the time of June 25 and then what you're going to hear later is about 50 spaces, not 150.
Thank you.
All I know is when I drive by there, I don't see a lot of empty parking spaces. Anybody else have anything? Any questions? Anybody else? Well, someone want to move to accept?
So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted unanimously. Bond approval and acceptance. Section 2, the ridings. DP 2020, 88 Adams Road. Is there anyone here that ought to come down to the microphone?
How we doing?
Hi. Name, rank, and
Kyle McRae. I'm project manager over there.
I can give a brief overview and then turn it over to the writings to elaborate. So this tripartite agreement was vetted by council prior to being presented to the board this evening. There was a few iterations that went back and forth, but this is the final agreed upon version. The applicant has read over it and is comfortable with the language. The board may remember there was a construction estimate approved in 2023, and that's what was used as the basis for this because nothing had changed significantly even after we confirmed that with Graves rather. All of the lots in phase 2 are the following this, the lot release will follow the ultimate approval of the bond if the board is comfortable with it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. This is pretty standard. I'm happy to answer any specific questions that the board may have about what's in the actual document, but they'll need to secure this security so that they can move forward with developing phase 2. So just part of the subdivision.
now this doesn't overlap into other stuff that I've seen. So we just need to talk about approving the bond.
Yep, as approving
Approve
the
and
bond is
accept.
presented.
Questions? Anyone out there in the room or on the internet?
I imagine a motion would be in order to approve and accept the tripartite agreement and the bond estimate.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, so voted unanimously. Which brings us to lot release request, section 2 of the ridings.
So, as I just discussed, the natural next step for the developer is to request lot releases once they have an approved bond in place. The applicant is requesting the release of 2 of the remaining lots in phase 1 and all of phase 2.
Yes.
Okay. So they can get underway with completing that portion of the project. So this is again standard, our typical form. Was double checked, and we, as a department, we have no concerns. Just You just need their
All
approval.
all the prerequisites for releasing the lots have been met.
Yes.
There's I think there's a requirement for modifying Adams Road a bit. Did that get done? As you come out onto Adams Road to the right, it goes up and it makes it, you can't see the intersection as well as you should. And it was supposed to come down a foot, 2 feet.
I'm not 100%.
Well, you don't, okay, maybe I don't remember. I remember us
Familiar
wanting
with it
that.
either.
Yeah. I don't.
It sounds familiar to me, but I don't know for sure.
Well, in any case, we ought to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, we can
Yeah,
continue that
separate.
discussion.
I
Yeah.
think this,
We'll
now,
follow up.
does this get involved in the radiuses of the turns and all that business? The radius of the entrance of the roads? We have a bunch of,
I don't know if that touches on
this is,
the lot release
this
request.
this is separate from that. Because I wasn't quite sure how that all came in. Okay, well, anyone out there? Anything? Anybody?
I will move that the board approve the lot release request.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, so voted. Good. Motion carries unanimously.
They would also like to request that the board votes to release the $220,000 bond for phase one. Since the new tri-party, I don't know if I should have brought this up last one, but since the new tri-party is replacing that bond and also it's covered in phase two.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll say I don't think that we can, since it's not on our agenda for tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the very least, whether that's an appropriate thing to be on the agenda, I'll leave it to staff. But
Okay.
that's we can't do that vote tonight.
Yeah, that definitely needs to be a separate vote
Okay.
on a future agenda, and I have to double check if that's part of the 20% contingency.
Okay.
We won't be able to. They won't be able to
Yeah.
grant the release.
I,
But
I,
I'll follow up.
I tried to look at some of this and I couldn't tell about that. I could, I don't know tri-party agreements
There's
all
Natalia.
that much.
Natalia's hand is
I
up.
wanna-
Natalia?
So this tripartite agreement covers both phase 1 and 2. The total amount covers 20% of both phases. And they've completed more than the,
Well,
in other words, we're holding more than the work that's left to complete for both.
I think it's correct, though, that it really ought to appear on the agenda, so that we
Okay.
can.
Okay.
Have the,
So we
have
can
the
follow.
groundwork done.
Yeah.
Yes.
It feels
Keep people
straightforward to
knowledge.
do, but
Yes. No. Exactly. Yeah. It sounds easy when.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Thank-
plan on,
I like those easy ones.
right.
Yes.
Fiona will follow up on that for
Yeah.
the next meeting.
Okay,
I'll be in touch.
good,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Brings me to E-code 360 project update.
Okey-dokes. So this was something that I learned about when I got back. So I don't have a ton of information about it at this point, other than E-code is basically an online kind of clearinghouse of all regulations and bylaws and associated enforcement mechanisms in towns. A lot of communities use E-code. I attached a few samples in the meeting materials just so you can get a feel of how different communities do this. The reason why I'm putting this in front of you now is because I guess this was started a few years ago and kind of had a slower rollout, but now the new town clerk is starting to really kind of get things going again with this project. And it's going to result in a recodification of the zoning bylaws and potentially some changes that help clarify and streamline the regs. So there's some areas where, you know, I think through the years, you know, zoning bylaws are updated over, you know, every year for, I don't even, you know, Grafton has had several iterations and changes since, you know, 86, and sometimes they're not always talking to each other very well. So we're wanting to make sure that names of districts are consistent, you know, references to laws and things like that. We're trying not to do any like significant policy level changes, but there will be a lot of cleaning up. I think that's part of this E-code update in addition to the recodification. So we have nothing available to present to the board yet, but I just want to lay the groundwork early and have an introductory conversation with you all about this. So you're not getting surprised later on, like, oh, I'm hearing that we're updating this, like, well, what's going on? So, and I think, you know, the anticipated timeline to bring this to town meeting isn't until 2027, I think, at the earliest, because there's a lot of coordination that's involved. I need to work with Tracy on zoning bylaw language as well and what she's comfortable with, because obviously she'll be enforcing whatever the board approves. So yeah, this is just a high level conversation. Anything that the board wants to relay to me about the project or anything they want to make sure that I'm staying on top of, or just general concerns that you have that I can work through with the consultant, let me know. And
The consultant.
there's a consultant.
Tell me
Yes.
about the consultant.
The consultant, her name is Shelley, and she's very good. She is familiar with how towns operate and how town meeting works and how zoning bylaws are changed, because I did.
Where is she and how is she being paid?
I am not sure. This was funded like 7 years ago through like a special budget line item, I believe, for the work. So we're trying to get it finalized.
You might wanna.
But they've been
It
fully
doesn't
paid.
sound familiar.
They've been fully paid already?
That's my understanding, that
What's that?
they've been paid to complete this work. So now that we have a new clerk who's spearheading it. That's how that's rolling out.
It's
Maybe-
probably worth verifying that they've been paid to complete rather than just paid for what they've already done. Especially after years have passed, sometimes there's lines in contracts that can change things. The other, I guess I want to say is out loud. It seems like, having looked at a few towns, just from what you shared with us, that our existing zoning bylaw, sign bylaw, and charter and all that can go into this without changes. But the changes are just some extra step that is good to do. And
Yes, and it's just it's probably changes that are long overdue. And if we're doing a presentation at town meeting for basically more or less an overhaul and recodification, we might as well do it now. And obviously, the board will be able to take
Does anyone,
a look at what we suggest.
does anyone remember hearing about this before?
I don't recall hearing about a project having been funded. While I was working on the general bylaw review committee, I remember this coming up in conversations with Evan, that he had something that he had in mind to do this, but it didn't sound to me like it was a project that had been kicked off or even funded. Whatever. There's a lot. I don't know how much of the town's bylaws and regulations are intended to be included in this. Just from seeing it, again, going back to my work on the bylaw study committee, and even before then, I've from time to time looked at other towns for the bylaws, and E-Code 360 comes up frequently. So a lot of folks have done it, and some of the work that might go into that is basically non-substantive, things like formatting, things like consistency of references to the general laws. There's a lot of stuff that I caught and fixed during the bylaw study, but there's also some things that I'd left, the bylaw study committee left for future work, and it could very well happen as part of this.
Yeah.
But, you know, we may or may not be including the town charter in this, the general bylaws, the zoning bylaws, the subdivision rules and regulations, other rules and regulations. There's a lot of latitude for different towns have included in this. I was a little bit surprised to see that this work is actually now it's now underway, or, you know, that we're actually doing something, which is kind of cool, but it, you know, for all the stuff that I've done that's close to this topic, this is really the first I've heard that things are going somewhere with this.
Yes, I think just my understanding is, you know, with bandwidth and trying to take it on, and it was a difficult rollout at the beginning, but now that the clerk's office is with more capacity, they're really ready to jump into this. The charter, the general bylaw, and the subdivision regs and the zoning bylaw are already uploaded, but they're going through a period of just kind of Q&A and kind of commentary internally amongst staff. But yeah, all of those regulations that you listed, Dave, are in there.
Well, whatever we should know, I'd like to hear. If and when we figure any of that out, I'd like to know about how things are getting paid for, and you know, who has what responsibilities and what's going on, since really haven't heard, you know, first I heard of it that I can remember. So there's some stories, but we don't, you know, tonight we've got other things to do, and I think we've gotten about all the information we have.
At this point, yeah. But this is a project. It's the town clerk is the lead with the assistance of, you know, myself, Tracy, Evan, and other, you know, key staff.
But who is
I
this?
don't know if there was a budget line item in their operational budget, or how they did that. How they did it, I'm not sure.
Okay. Anything else on it? Bills.
I move that the board approve the payment of the bills as drafted.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted unanimously. Staff report.
Okay, so I've been just playing catch up because I've been out. So the past week has been a little crazy, but I was able to apply for MVP 2.0. I've been going into eCode and doing the question and answers. There's about 200 questions that were waiting for me upon my return. So I just trying to tackle that. The VHB's lid updates for our subdivision regs, I'm wanting to close that out soon. I've kind of gotten my head back into that and was able to meet with the consultant at VHB. I think we're at the final, the end of the road. If the board may recall that we did have comment period throughout kind of 2023, and then we reignited that in 2025. We had discussed this over the summer. Some comments were provided by the board at that time. Those have been incorporated, and now we're just ready to do the final closeout if the board is comfortable with the changes as presented. So stay tuned for those updates. We had our intern from Worcester State had her last day today. So she did do a lot of great work, including I had her doing some research for the Affordable Housing Trust in terms of payment in lieu, and I had her working on a research project regarding tree preservation bylaws. So two things that have come up have been requested of my office to kind of look into. So it was great for her to be able to delve into that and produce a really nicely done report. So happy reports rather. DLTA applications are in to CMRPC for the January 2026 cycle. We're going to be going after a comprehensive permitting guide, which the goal is to have everything in one place, one resource, including information about what different departments permit what. If you want to start a business, this is in Grafton, this is how you do it. If you want, some state resources, we just want to have one really polished permitting guide for use, and the EDC will be able to utilize it when they're doing their networking events, and we're really excited about it. And then continuing the flexible development project that have been working on with CMRPC throughout 2025. So continuing that research and hopefully getting some recommendations for bylaw updates from Mike and the team there. So we're also advertising for the office assistant position again. So we're going to be starting interviews and getting that underway. So I'm happy to answer any questions about anything.
That, the guide, development guide tells you all. I'd hope that we'd do that in a way so that we know how we can readily update it when we change things. Like have the materials we need to be able to go in and
Update ourselves.
update it ourselves. Whatever.
I'll make sure to get formats from them if we get approved so that we can do that.
Okay. Any other report? That's it? That's all the
No.
report?
Sorry?
That's all the report?
Yeah, yes, so far. Catching up on emails has
That's
been.
everything from Lake Wobegon. Never mind. Correspondence. Anybody have anything in correspondence? Reports from planning board representatives on town committees and CMRPC. Board members should have received the latest sign-up form for the quarterly meeting if you'd like to participate. It's a Zoom. Safe streets and roads for all. Anybody else have anything in correspondence or in activities?
Nothing new from me.
Nobody. Okay, well, that brings us to needing to vamp for 2.5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, did you want
Unless you
to?
have something.
Did you want to sign off on the paperwork while we have some
Now,
time?
who signs what?
Every board member will sign the bond that you just approved and the lot release, and Natalia will witness it on Zoom. So maybe we can do that while we're waiting.
See Natalia.
There's a form that should be,
I see
Clipped in.
I see a sign here.
And there's a
and just,
phrase.
What?
will you just tell him?
There's a phrase right there that we need to say.
I, Robert Hassinger, acknowledge the execution of the foregoing instrument to be my free act and deed. And I think I have to come down here to the tri-party
Last page.
agreement.
Yep.
And, I, Robert Hassinger, acknowledge the execution of the foregoing instrument to be my free act and deed. Who wants it next? If it'll go back on. End up with-
All right.
The Seven Jumbo's path, we could get ready if anybody wants to.
I'm about to assign the tripartite agreement. I, David Robbins, acknowledge the execution of the foregoing instrument to be my free act and deed. And as to the lot release, I, David Robbins, acknowledge the execution of the foregoing instrument to be my free act and deed. Your turn, Greg.
All right. Okay, for the lot release, and, I, Greg Delamole, acknowledge the execution of the foregoing instrument to be my free act and deed. the tripartite agreement. I, Greg Delmolly, acknowledge the execution of the foregoing instrument to be my free act and deed. There's no spot for me here. Or am I missing it?
That should have been your name there.
So I just scratch it?
Sorry about that, Greg.
That's no problem.
Write it and
Right, yes, please write it in.
print it too, Greg. I had to do the same thing to correct mine.
All good. Pass it down.
I'm gonna slightly cheat Natalia, but you can speak up if you need me to do it slightly differently. I, Justin Wood, acknowledge the execution of the foregoing instruments to be my free act and deed. So I don't have to say it once.
I, Michael Palermo, acknowledge the execution of the foregoing instruments to be my free act and deed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Natalia.
That brings us to request the continuation of the hearing on a request for project plan review, PPR 2025-03, 7 Jumbo's Path, from the trustees of Tufts College, aka Tufts University. We already did the reading of the notice last time,
Okay.
didn't we?
I don't know.
We did. I generally say let's read it again for the very first actual hearing, but
Sure, yeah, I have it here.
Doesn't hurt.
It says the
Go
24th,
for
but I
it.
have it here. The Grafton Planning Board will hold a public meeting on Monday, November 24th, 2025, commencing at 7:30 p.m. in the conference room A at the Grafton Memorial Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road, Grafton, Massachusetts, to consider an application for a project plan review for the Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine at Tufts University pursuant to section 9.6.1.2 of the Grafton zoning bylaw for the construction of a Cummings School Learning Center building on property located at 7 Jumbo's Path and shown as Grafton Assessor's Map 21, lots 1.a, 100.a, 101.a, and 102.a. Said property is located in an office light industrial OLI and campus development overlay CDO zoning district. The applicant owner is trustees of Tufts College, aka Tufts University. Copies of the application and the plan are available for public inspection at the planning department during regular business hours or on the Town of Grafton website at www.grafton-ma.gov on the Planning Department Development Projects webpage.
Okay. If everybody's happy,
So, Mr. Chair, I think the Tufts folks have a presentation that they'd like to share. So instead of doing my spiel, I'll just let them do it.
Thank you, Julie. If you want to, there you go.
you want to give your name, right?
Yes, I
Sure.
will. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liza Perry. I'm the Deputy Director of Government and Community Relations for Tufts University. Thank you to Chair Hassinger, Vice Chairman Wood, members of the Planning Board, Fiona and Natalia for reviewing our proposal for the Cummings Learning Center, otherwise referred to as 7 Jumbo's Path on the agenda. Next slide, please, Julie. Tonight, we will go through a team introduction. We will go over the project's purpose and need, provide a site context plan, floor plans, show you what the existing site looks like from Route 30, and what the new view would look like, consistency with the approved master plan, parking plan, the waivers requested, and the project schedule. I'll now introduce our team. Again, my name is Liza Perry from Tufts University. I'm joined here tonight with Dean Alistair Cribb from the Cummings School, my colleague Robert Corbett, the Executive Director of Capital Programs for Tufts University, our architect pro-con, Jacob Mercer, Senior Project Director, our civil engineer, Niche Engineering. We have Chris Hodney in the room representing Niche tonight. And then our project managers who are our consultants. Chris Dupuy is here in person behind me. And then Julie is controlling the slides on Zoom. Our construction manager is Dacon, and they are not present here with us tonight. I'll now turn it over to Dean Cribb to go over the project need.
Thank you. Thank you for having us again tonight. And as Liza said, I'm Alistair Cribb. I'm the Dean at Cummings School. So you all know that Cummings School has been part of the Grafton community since probably the late 70s, and we renovated and built the first buildings on the campus back in the 1980s. And we've grown a lot and changed a lot over that time with Grafton. We now employ about 700 people, second largest employer in Grafton, and we bring over 45,000 visitors to the community each year coming to our clinics and hospitals that are on campus. 5 years ago, we undertook an extensive strategic planning exercise looking at how to move forward and keep the school vibrant. And out of that process came a recognition that to contribute to serve the needs of Massachusetts and New England and beyond, that we really needed to grow and revitalize the campus so that we continue to remain an important part of the Grafton community. Over the years since we started the school, which would be about 45 years plus ago, the way we now teach has changed a lot. We've done that to make it more relevant and effective for today's world. We've grown from a class of 36 students in 1983, that was the first graduating class, to a class size of 130. So we now host 520 veterinary students and about 50 graduate students each year. And the small animal hospital, that's the one if you drive by on Route 30 with the glass out front, that's sort of the flagship small animal, and behind is a large animal. We've got 2 other clinics actually on campus and other places, but that small animal hospital was built looking well into the future and trying to accommodate 12,000 visits a year, and now we have 35,000 just to the small animal hospital alone. So that's just an example of all the things we need to update and expand our infrastructure, and you've seen that happen over the last few years since I've been here. I'm not sure exactly how many times I've been here now, but several, and we really appreciate the support. So the new building we're presenting today is called the Learning Center, or the Veterinary Learning Center, and we need that because we changed the way we teach, so we don't teach so much with students sitting in a bunch of bleachers, and the classes are bigger, so they don't fit into our existing classrooms. So that's the important driver. What is special about the building too is it will support many of our other programs, such as continuing education events. So we just had one on this past weekend. We host several community events, and we frequently get calls for community events where we don't actually, despite the size of the buildings, have capacity to hold them, and we will in the new Learning Center, and it will also support our K-12 programming. So it's going to give us a flexible teaching environment. It's going to have a large social space for those functions. The classrooms are, one is completely flat, the other one just has a very small rake, and they're built to be flexible. You're going to hear more details about it, but that's the fundamental principles behind the building. It's about 30,000 square feet, and it's located, and again, you'll hear more detail about things underground and that sort of stuff, but it's located on the south side of Route 30 because we're trying to stop all the students from having to cross Route 30 during the day, right? There's a lot more traffic on the road, and there's a lot more students, and so with students going back and forth, the faculty and staff going back and forth, we do want to reduce that. We're also going to take out the parking lots that are in the center of campus and move them to the periphery. So this will go where one of the parking lots was. And, you know, I don't think parking lots in the center of campus are as nice as a nice green space with buildings around it. So that's what we're trying to do, make it safer and more welcoming place for the students, our community, and for the Grafton community and surrounding areas as a whole. And we're hoping that it will be done in the fall of 2027. So with that, I'll turn it back to Eliza.
Thank you, Dean Krebs. Jacob Mercer from Procon will now provide a site context plan.
Good evening, everyone. Jacob Mercer, Procon, project architect. On the screen, you can see our project site outlined in red. Again, as Alistair said, it's to the south side of Route 30, the Animal Hospital adjacent to the east, and the Agnes Vera Center adjacent to the west. The thing that we really like about this site, it provides us a great opportunity to begin to consolidate those student-facing functions towards the center of campus. As Alistair said, displace that parking to other areas and still leave enough green space to provide a campus pedestrian quad to the south side of the building. In siting the building, we try to take advantage of this particular area with a relatively flat site, so we don't have to do too much soil import-export. We've also situated it to avoid some existing utilities that run through campus. Additionally, you'll see, in addition to the parking lot demolition, there is the building G15, which is a small stick-built residential structure that's on the left edge of that building there that will be demolished as an enabling project for this building. I think at the next slide, Julie, I think Chris is going to come up and speak to this.
Solo. Chris Hodney, project manager with Niche Engineering, civil engineer on the project. So just going to walk you through some of the zoning aspects of the project itself. So the project site itself is about 1.5 acres within the larger 375 plus or minus acre campus. So we always try to balance the site from an impervious area perspective. It helps us on the stormwater front. We actually got this within 21 square feet. So you can kind of think of this as the building is taking the place of the parking lot, which is going away. But from a land cover perspective, it really is kind of unchanged from that perspective. And again, being inside such a large parcel, the only zoning setback that we really had to think too closely about was the front setback. We're very far away from the other one, so the required is 50. We're going to be a little bit more than 50 with this building. One other thing we are proposing, just for fire access and for potential fire issues, which they hopefully will never happen, but there is a new fire hydrant proposed in the northwest corner of the building, kind of right where that sidewalk meets the sidewalk along Route 30 on the top right hand side of the plan. That'll connect to the water main in Route 30, and then also just providing access around the building, so fire engines will be able to access the site from Westboro Road, Route 30, and then also from the backside by where the temporary classrooms are, the transitional classrooms on the bottom of the plan. So it's going to provide that access around the whole 360 sides of the building. I think I turn it back over to Jacob now.
Thank you. Yeah, Jacob, do you want to do the floor plans?
Actually, one more thing before.
Yeah.
So we made this change very recently. We haven't submitted this to you yet, but I just wanted to just let you know and get your thoughts on it because we will be submitting this. One thing that we've added is another driveway entrance during construction. This is temporary off of Route 30. The intent here being it's easier access to the site, but it also is preventing or really minimizing the amount of construction vehicles that have to go through the heart of the campus down Jumbo's Path, where all the students are going to be. So this will give us access from Route 30 so that we can just shorten that path. We would keep the one that we already were proposing on the backside just as, if needed. But that will be submitted to you. Just wanted to bring that up. Thanks.
So here's a look at the schematic floor plans of the building. Again, it's roughly 30,000 square feet with 20,000 plus or minus square feet on the first floor and 10,000 square feet on the second floor. On the first floor in purple color, you will see the two large classrooms. The one on the top left is that low tier, low rate classroom. And the one on the right side is our flat floor, flexible classroom that has a divisible partition, able to turn it into smaller classrooms. Outside the classroom space, we have student gathering spaces, student kitchenette, and lockers. And finally, in the upper right corner of the plan is our restrooms and our mechanical and service spaces. And on the second floor is served by or accessed by an elevator and 2 stairways. And really the function of this floor is office space, some small meeting rooms, restrooms, and some ancillary support spaces. Moving to the exterior, this is the existing view of the site from Westboro Road. You can see the parking lot there in its current state. And here is a proposed view from that Westboro roadside. This is a 1-story volume here facing Westboro Road, and we've kept it relatively simple and utilized brick to tie it together with the other campus fabric along Westboro Road, being the Animal Hospital and the Agnes Ferris Center. Then moving around to the south side of the building, this would be facing that future potential pedestrian quad. This is the main entry of the building. Again, we've utilized brick here at that entry piece to tie that together with the surrounding fabric. The the 2-story volume behind is, we're showing fiber cement panel on there currently as sort of the body of the building. In front of the building, we're showing you can see some activation with gathering spaces and outdoor seating to begin to, again, activate that quad and provide a student-facing building in the center of the campus there. Next slide, Julie. And finally, this is just a view from the west to sort of tie it together for you. That, again, the 2-story volume with the office space on top is in that fiber cement. You can see the front entry to the right in brick, and the 1-story volume along Westboro Road, again in brick to the left.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Robert is going to come up and talk about the master plan.
So good evening, Robert Corbett, Executive Director. Couple of technical boxes that we need to check with the application. The first is that it is consistent with the master plan. The master plan was approved by this committee in 2021. In that plan, we showed an expansion of the of the existing large animal hospital. That was described as having academic, medical, and clinical functions. What we are doing is effectively accelerating the academic portion of that project. We will come later for the expansion of the clinical and the medical hospital, but effectively it's in the same location. We're just bisecting it and creating 2 buildings where previously in the plan there was 1. The balance of the attributes of the master plan we believe are exactly the same. We are limiting pedestrians crossing Westboro Road. We are creating the courtyard that is in front of the building that was identified in the master plan. And we are keeping the academic and learning in close proximity to the hospital. Next. We have to show adequate parking. As we discussed earlier this evening, the parking, traffic, and stormwater plan that was approved by the committee was as of June 2025. The starting point for these calculations is the current parking at the time of the application. So there have been slight increases in both the supply side and the demand side. On the supply side, we completed what was a temporary parking lot at the Lower Valley Road. which previously had 88 spaces as a temporary lot. We increased it to almost 150 by completing paving and expanding that lot. On the demand side, in the school year 2025-2026, we have approximately 36 additional students from the 24-25 academic year. So the combination of those two things, we showed a surplus of 9 additional spaces in the June submission. The starting point here is that we have, in actuality, 40 additional spaces presently. I'll also remind the committee that in that report, it mentions that our utilization is under 80%. So that means that our demand is actually overstated by 20% by calculation versus reality. So even when supply and demand is calculating to be even, there actually is a surplus of 20% spaces. We are reducing the supply by 56 spaces by eliminating the parking lot in order to construct the building. We are proposing to construct a new parking lot for an additional 116 spaces. And we will have an enrollment increase that will require us to have an additional 91 spaces on the demand side. So the supply will increase from 1,058 to 1,118. And on the demand side, we are required to have 1,109. So a condition of the approval is we are requesting that you concurrently link the new parking lot at Building 18 to meet the requirement for the additional parking. We additionally have to meet the requirements for the electrical vehicle charging stations. The calculations are in our memo. For a level 2 parking station that's medium energy, required to have 10 spaces. Of the 56 spaces that we are eliminating, 4 of them were EV stations. So we propose to replace in the new parking lot 14 EV ready spaces. Next. Our application is complete. It checks all the boxes with the exception of earthwork calculations and a traffic study. We are requesting technical waivers of these 2 items. The earthwork calculations, we provided a cut and fill analysis, which we believe meets the standards. We showed that there is little to no net import, and therefore we didn't go through the process of determining exactly where each foot of the dirt would go once it was on the site. The traffic study we provided in the update of the parking, traffic, and stormwater as of June 2025. Therefore, we did not feel that it was necessary at your discretion, so we're requesting a waiver for that as well. Next. As the Dean mentioned, we're seeking approvals here in December. We would start construction in February. Take us approximately 3 months to do the foundations and the site work, and then approximately a year to build the building, and then we would be ready for occupancy in the summer of 2027. That concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to take any questions.
I haven't been able to figure out where the new parking lot would be. And I want to know about losing the old spaces before the new spaces are in, or how do you have that programmed?
Yeah, so Julie, can you bring up the campus-wide site plan?
you remember the building we tore down recently? We demolished an old building on the hill. That's where the parking lot's gonna go. Old building 18.
Someone's gonna have to point,
Yeah,
and I can't see where
that
you're
one.
pointing.
You're gonna point to that one.
Right behind you,
Right
behind you.
no, right here, right here.
We need a map for people so that they can tell where things are. That's over towards where the little business things were, like I said.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
okay.
for those watching at home, if they would do this is the very bottom of the screen to the left hand side of that building, just off of. Oh, okay. God, zoom in.
Jumbo,
Wildlife Drive,
no, Wildlife.
off the side of that.
So tell me about the phasing.
So we do plan on making that building 18 lot a temporary parking lot in the interim for the 56 spaces. We will need to work exactly through the phasing in order to build that lot basically over the summer when peak demand is low, so that we don't have any issue with, trying to address all the parkers at the peak time of the university season.
Because as I say, when I drive by there, I see an awful lot of cars, and I don't want I don't want any parking on Route 30.
Yeah, I think that the reality is if you go deep into the campus, we do have parking, as the dean mentioned, that's very remote. When you go to the remote locations, you actually find out that there is a substantial amount. Some of our lots actually have very few cars with many, many spaces. So that goes to the total utilization. Yes, the spaces are a little farther away and take a little more time to walk, but there is adequate parking on the campus.
And how much traffic study, how much is this changing when it's done, the trips per day in and out of, on and off of Route 30?
We didn't do the full analysis and didn't submit it. However, we believe that with carpooling and other offsets, we believe there'll be less than 50 trips per day added. And that is all due to student enrollment.
If I can just add a clarification or some additional information about that, and also the parking, and mention the 77%. So our total numbers are spread over 7 days, 24 hours a day, right? So because the students are during the day, but our hospitals are open at night, so there's a significant portion. If you go to the hospital, it's full of people at night. So there's a significant portion that park out of the regular hours, which spreads people out. So that's one part of the actual demand being lower than the absolute number, as Robert said. And the actual the building won't actually change much. We're already now 30 students shy of we only have one more class to add with 130 students. So the number of students that will be on the campus 2 years from now, and that building is only 30 more than are on there now. So it's not, it itself is not going to cause a big jump. And what we're hoping, one of the things that, believe it or not, the students do right now is they'll park up in the top right corner, and then they have to do something over the top, the top left corner. They'll have to do something over on the right side. So they'll get in their car and they'll drive it across campus and park on the other side. So I'm hoping that with this and centralizing things in the center, we'll actually reduce some of that movement. It's not a lot, but there is, I think, probably enough in there that'll offset the 30 extra students.
Do I remember that was, before you got there, that was a gymnasium, and now it's a library?
That is correct, yeah. Library and study space, yeah. And there's a
So
teaching lab in the
they
basement.
do cross, you were trying to keep them from.
Yeah, we're trying to keep them. So right now, what also happens in the library, there's a lecture hall in there. So they go to the lecture hall, and then if they have to go to the anatomy lab, or they want to go to the lunchroom or whatever, they have to cross over. So what we're doing is moving the majority of the teaching to the under Route 30 of the DVM students, and then we'll move the graduate students into the north of Route 30, so the graduate students won't have to cross, and the DVM students won't have to cross. And so that's the goal, to reduce the overall movement back and forth.
Okay, question?
A few comments from me at the moment. Number one, since it was mentioned that we submitted, curious about the board's feedback, at least for me. I do like the idea of that temporary construction parking. I think that, right off Route 30 probably makes more sense to me than having these vehicles have to travel through the entire campus. That's a good thing to me. One of the other thoughts I had, and I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase desire path, but seeing some of the renderings of this, desire path is basically people in general are going to walk their desired path, even if there's a laid out path in front of them. So like I saw one of the renderings where there's like an offset thing for the front of this new building. My imagination is students might go, I'm gonna skip the corners there and just walk across the grass. Nothing I'm really concerned about, just a thought to say out loud that, like I've seen pictures of some colleges, in general in the country that have completely redid their walkway layout because they just go, okay, well, there's where the grass went away. So, just figured I'd mention that thought.
Yeah.
Do your walkways have to be handicapped, accessible, so you have some limits on how you can build them?
Yes. There is a parking lot in the lower right-hand corner that's going to remain that already has ADA spaces, and we're creating the ADA path from that parking lot to the building.
Okay, more questions. Any? Oh,
Yeah, I saw a comment from fire about fire access. Has anybody followed up on that? I'm sure the board would want to make sure that fire is satisfied that they'll have adequate access to the building.
We agree. Yes. What we've done, if you could go to the site plan again, what we've proposed is that the pathway that runs on the right side of the building in this diagram is extra wide so it can accommodate the fire truck.
Okay.
It's not just the width, it's the weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Understood.
So it has to be designed, if that's gonna be a path for the fire department, it has to be designed as a road.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, like I said, it's not the width, it's the.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll just,
I guess we'll have to get that resolved.
yeah, just follow up with Mike to make sure that he's satisfied that fire's requirements are met here.
Yeah, which means they have to give us something more, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, ultimately what we'd want on the record is a confirmation from Mike Colleen that that
What we're approving.
Fire is comfortable with what we are approving. We always like to close the loop with fire, and sometimes sometimes we go a couple rounds before that happens.
Maybe doing better now.
Yeah, I think recently we have been more consistent on that.
Anyone else?
You talked about expansion up to trying to target 600 students, somewhere in that neighborhood. But it seems like your growth has been even better than that recently. So is that going to, be a little bit low? It seems like you're underestimating the amount of growth you're going to have.
So what I'm giving you is sort of our current growth level. So if I want to grow my DVM program, I actually have to get approval from accrediting agencies. So I can't just decide to go up. So we're building that we can go up to 150 students. That's why the classrooms, if you look, they're 160. They always have to be a little bit more than you ultimately want because somebody falls back, etc. And ultimately, we do want to grow our graduate students, but the 160 comes from 4 times the 150 DVM students a year. So we'd have to grow 20 more in each class, but that will take a while to happen. because we'd have to get approval. We have to show that we're doing everything correctly with 130 first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the reason this is complicated, the reason we're only going up 30 more now is that up until when we finish this next year, in the 4th year of the program, we take 20 to 30 international students in. So they're international in that they're going to veterinary school in places like Ross and St. George in the Caribbean. They don't have the clinical year there, so they're all Americans, but they're going to school there, and then they come and do their 4th year in veterinary schools here. So we already have 130 in 4th year now, which is why next year it'll only be 30 up, and then we're full, because when we do the next year with 30, we're not with 30 more. We're no longer taking the international students.
What are the capacities of the new classrooms, class spaces
They're 160 each
for the two?
for each class, yeah. And then the one that can be divisible into two is you can break it down to 2 groups of 80.
Okay.
So 320 students could be in that building. We'll have 260 to start, could be in the building.
Now, what I was thinking about is, I haven't noticed it happening in recent years, but in past years, there have been community things in the whatever theater,
Yeah.
amphitheater
Yeah.
that you've got, and there aren't a whole lot of places in town to have, like, I can remember planning board hearings with 100 and some odd people wanting to be there. So, hope if your class schedules work, maybe someday we might be able to.
Any evening for sure, and pretty much any weekend,
Okay.
during the day.
Evenings.
But yeah, and so ultimately in that one classroom, that will be our only building with more than one classroom in it. So if you want to have something where you've got 2 or 3 things going on at the same time, we'll actually be able to have 3 separate classrooms and then the social area in the front. So it'll be much more amenable to, continuing ed things, community stuff, etc. And so, and we've hosted we've hosted the Anaminisco Fair on campus. We've done a bunch of things like that. So I do think it'll be an asset to the
When the
community.
time comes.
Do have one more thought, mostly for the board, is where they are requesting a waiver on the traffic study. If the board's inclined to not grant that waiver, they have a lot more to do between now and when this can be approved. Does the board feel strongly one way or the other, or do we want to vote on granting that waiver tonight? We have done that in some cases in the past.
I support the waivers.
Yep.
I support both waivers.
Same here. Given the circumstances here, I don't see a strong need for the traffic study.
I agree on both waivers.
Is that everybody is okay enough, or do you want to vote?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we anticipate a favorable vote on that waiver request.
Thank you.
Okay.
I had a question, Mr. Chair. Robert, can you just explain what you were mentioning earlier about the parking lot and what you're asking the board? You had mentioned that you're looking for a certain approval from them now, but we will need, obviously, to see plans going forward for the details of the lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I
As long
know
as
that you
we're on the same
list conditions in the approval. All we're suggesting is that you, as a condition, you list that those plans will be
Yes.
further developed and submitted. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it should be, so it's sort of on the record.
Correct.
Via what you've said tonight, it's kind of on the record. Obviously, we'd ultimately like to see it in writing, but I think we can incorporate that in the decision in an appropriate manner. But basically, just to reiterate, there will be temporary parking created at that Building 18 site.
Yep.
And ultimately, that will be more fully developed as permanent parking.
That is correct.
So the temporary parking is essentially going to be created soon.
Right, prior to
And
the
a
start
longer-
of construction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably after the snow.
And will you have temporary EV spaces as well?
So we
lot
did
harder.
not plan on doing that, and actually the reason is that the utilization of the EV on this campus is very, very low. It's kind of an anomaly because in Boston and our Grafton campuses, we're seeing 7% of our spaces, we have electric vehicles, which is a pretty high number, but we're seeing nowhere near that demand yet on this campus. We're hopeful that by 2027 there will be a need, and then we could meet that need at that time.
I could tell you the reason why, because I drive an electric car. We all live close, right? And so I don't charge my car at work. Most of it, there's several people in my building, and we all just park our EVs out in front. We don't go and park because we just drive back and forth and charge them at home. We have a few people who come from distance, and they're the ones that use them. But there's a lot more electric car use, which is different than Boston by the time you get there. Even if you weren't that far away, it's a slow.
Remind me
slog.
what level 2 amounts to. How long does it take to?
It is not fast enough to make my Nissan Leaf catch on fire. That's the level 3 is the real fast charging, 30 minutes. The level 2, it takes about 4 to 5 hours. And the level 1 takes my Leaf like 16 hours. So
My son just got into a used Leaf, and he seems to get by. Okay, more conversation.
Is there any follow-up from the peer review?
The peer review report was submitted into the record on the 5th. So, and I believe I don't know if sorry, Liza, I might be blanking, but we would, want to see a response to that. There's some concerns and some changes that were requested in that report. Which will probably need to do some changes. And I did have a couple of comments in my letter as well. So, a combined, like, one document, like answering those concerns, is fine. But yeah, we definitely do want to see a response and confirmation that the changes are incorporated.
Part of my reason for asking was that there is additional information to be received. Therefore, I would not recommend that we close the hearing tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. I would think honestly that it's more tweaks at this point, but yes.
yep,
Like
so,
changing of the details in the plans, maybe a couple of additions,
yeah,
minor stuff.
on the assumption that there's not a lot of additional work required, it should be possible to respond to the peer review, provide any additional details as we've discussed tonight, within 2 weeks. So obviously it's really up to you guys, how much time you think you might need, but on the assumption that 2 weeks is sufficient time, the path forward then would likely to be to continue this hearing for 2 weeks.
Our next meeting is December 22nd, which is Christmas week, but it's Monday night.
But it's before Christmas.
Yes, it is.
It's not in between Christmas and New Year's, which is usually problematic.
If there's
That's usually when we don't have a meeting because it's between.
if there is travel or reasons you guys can't do that date, the next meeting date we have on file is January 12th.
I can join the 22nd by Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I can be here.
It sounds like you guys are probably motivated to get this wrapped up and
We are.
Yeah.
before
Well,
the end of the year.
If you want to ask for a continuation until then, you tell us and then you sign a form that she's
Yeah.
working on.
And meanwhile,
Okay.
subject to the availability of resources to do so, it's conceivable that a draft decision could be available.
For us.
Could.
That's it.
Could.
Keyword is could.
Always subject to staff resources. We-
Well, we would like to ask
I, yeah, I will not make any promises on behalf of staff here.
Thank you, Dave.
subject to staff availability, we would like to ask for a continuance to December 22nd.
Yep.
I move the board grant the applicant's upcoming written request to continue this hearing until December 22nd at 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good.
Yes.
And that brings us to 6B, request for site plan approval, SPA 2025-04, 9 and 12 West Street, Beta Investments LLC, and Roman Catholic Bishop of Worcester. This is a continuation of the hearing, but are we going to read?
We do not need to read. We did have testimony last time.
We did, yes, had discussion. Okay. Let's see.
Okay, so, since the last hearing, the board had requested some follow-up information about, the overlap of the application with the Dover amendment, as well as requested some changes be added to the plans, including some dimensional information about the parking lot, any information about, improvements to the sidewalk for accessibility, some details about the play area, if there was a specific area allocated to loading and unloading, and some other, just kind of basic kind of site plan elements, including, neighboring properties and whatnot. The applicant did provide a, some additional information in Exhibit 12, which did include, the dimensions for, the perimeter of the parking area. And also elaboration on the location of the crosswalk, which is going to be further south than the lawn space. I think it was a bit difficult with the first plan set because the crosswalk is actually connecting to a lawn area. So the board had to request a clarification about that. And so that information was uploaded. I did reach out to council and I had followed up as well about what the board can and cannot require. So I'm happy to kind of just reiterate that. I believe it was mentioned at the last meeting, but Dover Amendment limits the board's authority to basically bulk and height of structures, yard sizes, lot area, setbacks, open space, parking, and building coverage. So, and it's really specific to the site as well. So the sidewalk and the crosswalk and those elements that are kind of outside of the site and the roadway and the public right of way, the requests can be made, but
Private way.
West Street
Private
is
way.
Church
Yeah,
is
sorry.
public.
yeah. But it's out of the jurisdiction of the board is my point. So you can't
But it
base
should be within our jurisdiction to decide what submissions we need in order to do that job.
right.
In other words, the bylaw calls for a site plan with a certain amount of information. And that's where we are. We're at not having a compliant site plan, and what to do about it.
Can I give some clarification?
Well,
on
just,
that? Sure.
let me,
Yeah, and that's right. The details that are pertaining to the list that I had just read and requesting that information is definitely within the right of the board, and you can do that.
Well, thank you, Fiona. Good evening, board members. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to come here and talk to you and present the site plan one more time. So one of the things that I had requested in the waiver document for our site planning board was a request to waive our site plan requirement. That was the very first waiver in that. And the reason I requested it because we are not planning to do any changes or modifications to the exterior of the building. Most of the project is going to be inside the building. We are only doing flooring, changing some of the walls to create classroom spaces, and painting the building. The only thing that's outside the building that is being changed is addition of a playground between the garage that's part of the property and the church building. And it's shown as part of the sort of smaller site plan that we submitted. But I'm hoping that is sufficient to give us a permission to move forward with the project.
Mr. Chairman, I really want you to do this. I really do. But you've filed for a site plan approval, review approval, and we don't have a site plan. So that's kind of part of the whole thing, you know, site plan approval. You don't have a site plan. You have not submitted a site plan. You submitted this other drawing that shows the parking lot, but there are no property lines. There are no, it's gotta be a site plan.
There are two documents that are submitted as part of the application. There's one that shows the property lines and where the church exists, and there's another document that shows the parking lot, playground, and where the building is in regards to it. So you are absolutely correct, right, that there is no big site plan that has been submitted as part of this project. But before we are a very small business, family business. We are trying not to move forward at the speed of 100 miles per hour and create everything before even closing on the building. We are hoping that once we are close to closing the building, we are working with a title insurance company that will sort of dictate if we have to, what are the requirements for the site plan. So if, as of right now, our hope is that we can move forward with the documents that we have, the ones that show the property with the dimensions of it, and the other one that shows the parking lot and the building. Then yes, as we move forward, we can make it a conditional approval that the Kitty Time will present a survey at a future point.
Yeah, I
That is something.
I think the board needs to keep in mind that under the Dover Amendment, there are 8 specific things that we can regulate. We can insist on receiving information sufficient for us to evaluate compliance with those regulations. Beyond that, and there are a number of elements of a typical site plan that don't enter into, that we can't demand as part of a Dover project. Again, bulk and height of structures. We don't have any regulations related to the bulk of structures. We do have regulations relating to the height. Yard size, we have regulations on that, on lot area. The lot is an existing lot. It's not changing. We can regulate setbacks under Dover. And the existing building, presumably, actually, I should mention this. This is became important to my thinking that the existing use is a Dover use.
Yes.
It's a religious
It
use.
is now.
Yes.
Yes.
It is now a Dover use. The proposed use is also a Dover use. It's a different paragraph of Chapter 40, Section 3, but importantly, the child care is the exact same list of matters that we are allowed to regulate. So from that perspective, what I see here are the changes from the existing Dover use to the new proposed Dover use. And of those changes there are exactly 2. One is the parking requirements. For this use, the parking requirements are different than for the religious use. The other is the addition of the play area, which has to meet setback requirements. So if nothing else, I would want to see the parking calculations, which I think we've been presented with.
It has been
I would also want to see
playground dimension.
documentation of whether that play area meets setback requirements. I haven't seen that yet. I mean, I can look at the pictures, at the aerial imagery, and I can see that it's pretty obvious that it does meet setback requirements, but that needs to be documented.
Sure.
Beyond that, I don't think the board can ask for the full spectrum of site plans that the zoning bylaw accounts for, because a lot of that doesn't relate to matters we are allowed to regulate under Dover. We can ask for documentation of everything that we regulate under Dover.
But Dave, just to, if you look at this drawing of the parking lot, we have no idea whether that's even on the property. We don't know where the property lines are. We don't know if it's over the property line. Nothing. It's really not a difficult thing to show that parking lot with the property lines. That's all.
That, yeah, and
That's all.
you can't understand setbacks without knowing the property lines, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
Mr.
Well, no, but this isn't gonna, I mean, I would assume that this is not gonna relate to setbacks.
Right.
This is gonna relate to, is the parking lot that's shown here, that's shown as 42 spots and two handicap
Yeah.
spots, 100% on the piece of property?
Do we have sufficient documentation of the parking? And we're not quite there, as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not far off, but, you'd want to show the parking lot in relationship to property lines. You'd want to show, if you want to be really picky, you want to know the dimensions of each parking space. Are they compliant? I mean, but it's partly a matter of just I'd like to have one drawing.
Yeah.
That shows the property lines, the position of everything within the property lines, the setback lines. That would do it for me.
Okay.
And through you, Mr. Chair. So, just to kind of, my thoughts in a little bit, to Dave's point and Mr. Reed's point there, the site plan that you mentioned that was submitted in the initial materials, that was 2004, shows the rectory, doesn't show any of the parking at all. It doesn't even show the opposite side of West Street. For me, I number one agree with Dave that we can't ask you for things that Dover doesn't cover. That's fine, but I do need to see the plan that shows the existing site conditions where the building is. I'm not as worried about does the buildings meet the exact setback because they're not changing the building, but I do need to see that the play area does. Need to see that the parking lot meets the setback, is fully on the property. I would like to see the dimensions of the parking spaces so that we do know the actual parking spaces you're saying fit in there will actually get laid out and fit in there properly.
Yeah, I think if that a drawing drawn to the appropriate scale
Yes.
with parking area, parking spaces delineated as per that scale. You don't need to label all those dimensions
Oh,
individually.
absolutely.
Can I ask a clarifying question here? So even if we are not doing any changes to the parking lot, not even relining right now, we did the calculation based on what parking we need, and we submitted that as part of the application. Do we have to do the parking line calculations?
For me,
Or setback.
I do want to see a properly scaled parking laid out in the parking lot that is there for your use. The church's use, like I said last time we were here, they parked pretty much wherever anyone could fit to go into the church, and then they left. I have no current confidence that the parking lot as it exists will necessarily have this number of parking spaces you are saying it should, with the turns that people will need to make to come in and out of the parking lot. So that's one reason. That's why I would want to see that shows us in a site plan that the parking is adequate.
So as of right now, the application that I've submitted, it shows that per our use, based on our calculations, we only need 35 parking spaces. The current parking lot has 50 parking spaces plus 9 spaces that are behind the building. So that is documented by our architect. She has created that site plan. So
That's on your side of this, or the church's side of the street? Or are you including the parking across the street when you say that?
I'm including the parking at 9 West, that's across the street.
Yeah, I'm,
Who thinks that this plan you're looking for has to be stamped?
Well, it's gotta, I mean, if you're gonna lay out the property lines, you're gonna have it done by,
Yeah.
you know.
I would.
Well, that's what I'm, you know,
I
cause
would
I
go
can
as
draw,
far-
I can draw something with the property lines.
Yep. I would go as far as saying if you can show in the like property line stamp thing at least the number of parking spaces that you actually need.
Yeah.
With the beyond that,
yeah, if you can show some if there are calculations that show that that parking area is sufficient to accommodate at least that many vehicles.
yes.
Yep.
That,
Under the current requirements for how big parking spaces are and how big
Yes,
aisles are,
there's
which is where, maybe Ray knows. When was that built and the parking lot put in place?
The church was built in the seventies.
1977.
Yeah.
Yes.
When?
1977.
77.
There was an existing parking lot from the church that was there. So that parking lot's been there since the
Well,
forties.
but it was a different church, like,
No, it was St. Philip's. It was just the
new building.
new building.
that's what I'm saying. They
Yeah.
took down a building and put up a building.
Yeah.
What rules and what review would there have been at that time?
In 1977, Frank Noel was on the planning board at that time. I can tell you that.
I didn't realize he was ever on the planning, he
Oh,
was
yeah.
on everything
He
else.
was on the planning
Yeah.
board for a long time.
No, the
So-
Doberman amendment was in force at that time.
Yeah.
Well, but, as to any assumptions you might be able to make that it was, that it complied with rules, it was found to comply with the rules,
No clue.
you can't. Oh, and the other thing was whether there's any wiggle room around, non-conforming prior, uses, and whether that helps at all.
As best as I can tell, the existing building and site appear to conform, it certainly conform to all the current regulations of the zoning bylaw in terms of use. It's a permitted use, it's a religious use, it's a Dover use,
Yeah, I'm
Which
talking
limits
about
what we-
the problem we have.
but in terms of the, it appears to me from the measurements that are shown on that A&R plan that was submitted as part of this. And it shows some of the setbacks and distances, but not all of them. But as best as I could tell, it appears that there are no non-conforming aspects of the current use.
Based on that drawing.
Based on that drawing, based on what I
Exhibit
could
2.
see.
Based on Exhibit 2. Right?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Based on Exhibit 2.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I think it's important to note for the applicant, this is site plan approval, so that means you're gonna get it. They cannot deny it. So wouldn't it, I think it might make sense to, if you have to produce the information at some point, I mean, the construction can't commence without engineered stamp plans with the details.
Absolutely.
So I think and I know you were mentioning that there's some, smaller business operation, you're trying to deal with closing and all of that, but if you're trying to close on this property and that's contingent on the decision of the board during this hearing process, I mean, it's almost a non-issue here, which other than the details that they're requesting,
and
you will be able to have the use on this site.
and I will reiterate one other thing. Even without Dover, I haven't heard one person on this board say they're against what you're planning to do here. And one thing that I do want to just add to what Fiona was just saying too is it may be frustrating for us asking for this now and needing it when we have these sketches, but when we make if we approve exactly what we're seeing right now, the issue comes down the line. Someone may try to bring us a site plan or a situation with exactly the level of detail you're providing, but in a much more complicated and difficult situation that then if we deny them after approving you, it goes to court because they'll say, why did you approve them and not me? And then it's a big issue. It's such a precedent basically that the courts will then require us to make the same process for everyone where we have this process we need to follow. It's procedural, but it is something that I feel we need to do.
So have you, I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you have you signed a purchase and sale agreement?
Yes, we do have a purchase and sale agreement.
So within that, prior to you financing this piece of property, the bank is gonna require you to have a site plan done. Or to have the Worcester Diocese provide a site plan for that piece of property that has the parking lot on it.
So the Roman Catholic Church you were asking,
Yeah.
no, they do not have access to any site plans.
Okay, so but the bank's gonna require you to do a site plan.
The title insurance company might ask us to do a Alta survey, which sort of does like a
And
high level.
you know what?
site
That's
plan.
an Alta survey might work in this situation, but somebody's going to ask you to do a site plan.
I agree.
Yep.
Alta survey costs $10,000 to do it. We are trying not to spend all the money and find out that this building won't work for us for some reason. So we are trying to go one step at a time and see if this will even work for us. Right now, as of
So
right,
you're in due diligence, right?
we are in due diligence. Our due diligence ends on January 22nd. We extended it from November 22nd to January 22nd. So we are in due diligence. We are trying to figure out if this is something that will work for the town, work for us,
So
and is everybody okay with it?
so let me throw this out. And I'm a non-voting member of this board, by the way. So I can't. You can tell me to go pound sand. So, but if you, as Fiona just said, this is going to be approved. So if that's part of your due diligence, you can take that to the bank. Okay?
Right.
That's good. That's a good thing. But prior to the board voting to approve a site plan, there's gotta be a site plan. So you can take that information and say, yes, the Grafton Planning Board said, conditionally that it's gonna get approved, and as Justin said, nobody on the board's gonna complain about it. No one here is saying, oh, by the way, we don't want that. Everybody wants it. So take that to the bank.
I don't know if bank will take that, not take my word on that. But here's where I think we are. I think we are close to an agreement, but this is where I think we are. For parking lot, there is no non-conformities or non-compliances in the past. Church had an occupancy of 200 people. We are only asking for an occupancy of 81 people. Based on our calculations and based on my architect's calculations and the document we submitted, there's 53 parking spaces. We only need 35. We are not changing anything in the parking lot. We're not changing any setbacks or anything. But the playground, I understand there is a setback requirement. There is no dimensions. I understand playground should have. The fence is going to be under 6 feet, so there will not be a permit required by the building department because it's a under 6 feet fence. That won't block anything. It's still on the property. But I'm happy to work with the architect to come up with the dimensions and show the setbacks on the playgrounds. Is that something that is all needed for us to move forward with the project?
It could be close anyway. If I were to see the diagram you have on the first page of Exhibit 2, which shows the footprint of the building, the parking, the walkway, the play area, if that were to be laid on top of the property lines, the two property lines, 9 and 12, and if those were, if basically, if that were expanded to show the property lines,
Okay. Okay. We can
That-
try to work on that.
for me at least, that would be sufficient to demonstrate compliance with the appropriate regulations under Dover.
The architect would have to do that.
Somebody would have to do it.
Well, the architect probably has
Yes.
the.
Hopefully a civil engineer. Hopefully a civil.
Oh,
engineer.
no, I understand that, but, the drawing now is from the
Yeah,
architect.
all right, so the architect drawing, if presumably that's all to scale. And,
It is a stamped drawing, so I'm assuming it's up to the scale. I can ask the architect to.
yeah, and so if the architect were to expand this diagram to
Include
show the
property
property lines, so that we can see everything in the context of the property lines, we would then, and perhaps it could even, within the property lines, it could even draw interior to the property lines, it could draw the setback lines,
Sounds good.
front, side and
We
rear.
can do that. Anything else?
Because as I said before, I want to see evidence that shows that the play area complies with the setback
Setback
requirements.
requirements.
And to do that, I need to see the property lines, and I need to see where the play area is relative to the property lines.
Okay.
If they didn't build the playground, the play area, that wasn't on the plan, and they went through and, purchased and did whatever and all, and then would they come back to us for an approval for a playground?
My understanding from council was that
Because of the
there's
site?
a modification process that we kind of have as a standard for all kind of site plan approvals, but with Dover, you can't really like burden the applicant by having them come back all the time. That's why we were, and I think what the board is trying to do here is
I'm saying,
ensure
there's,
the details.
this is a project, doesn't have any playground. It's just the current church and the current parking lot. And we say, good, they go ahead and they do their thing. And then they come back, we've gotten this bright idea, we want a playground. Now, this is a new thing. And,
Do they have to?
I think that would be
Yeah.
considered a modification, that would probably with the board's concurrence, that would probably be considered like a major modification. But if they had the play area on one side of the building and then moved it, 50 feet over, we couldn't make them come back again. It has to be reasonable what the board is asking for.
we wouldn't have done anything, and they would have developed whatever, whatever we said, whatever they asked us for. And then at some future time, that's a different thing, that's an added use, or a different use. So it's a separate subject.
Yeah.
Is the requirement of your loan to have this approved prior to closing on property?
We're hoping that all the things are in line before we.
Is the bank
close.
requiring it?
Bank is not specifically has said that, but we want to have everything done before we complete our due diligence. We want to make sure that
Maybe you should ask the bank.
Yeah, maybe you should ask the bank.
we can ask the bank.
I'd be surprised if they're not gonna require it, but that's, maybe you should ask them.
So what do we wanna,
I think I know what you were getting at, Bob. Though, for one, just to kind of say out loud what I think you were getting to, and
It takes away from the actual objective of what this organization is.
Yeah.
If it's a daycare facility.
no, I'm not telling
I
them
don't
not to do that, I'm just saying, if by chance they were asking us for a plan, that didn't have this play area, which seems to be causing the problems with
Yep.
property lines. They're just, we're not putting it in a decision or anything. I'm just saying, maybe a little different request would be easier to get approved, and then you could have a new request for more. But
Yeah, I think to kind of restate what I understand from you, Bob, is if we get this exhibit 2 just minus the play area, like everything else is exactly the same, would that be enough for the board to say, you know what, we can approve this right now. You don't need to spend more money to get an approval from us for now. Then after your due diligence is done, you purchase this and you start work, start opening it or whatever. You can then go, you know what, now's the time I want to do the play area. Let's give you that, dimensionality, whatever, setbacks.
Sure.
And it's entirely up to you how you want to present it. That's what I think I understood from what you were saying, Bob.
I think I said that 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
If I may,
But it's beyond,
wouldn't that be requiring them to have to do a refiling and a modification and kind of going through this?
well, I don't know whether
all
it'd be
over
a
again?
modification or, I don't know. New site plan, whatever.
I think the bottom line is that come back with a site plan, shows the property lines around the parking lot, shows the outdoor area that Dave's talking about and the setbacks from that. And I think then the board, at that point, would have a better idea of what's going on and then may vote to approve it on that, based on that.
Yeah.
But you really need to have the property lines on a site plan.
Can I clarify the playground piece of it for a second? So if we take off if I understood correctly, if we take out the playground from the exhibit to page 1, then the board is at a point where we can make a decision to move forward, and then in future,
No.
It's not, it's the.
I'm not,
is that
The
just
bylaw,
asking? I didn't.
the bylaw
I'm
tells
clarifying
us
it.
about site plans, and it doesn't, as I recall, give us any power to waive information on the site plan.
Except to the extent that what we ask for on a site plan, if it doesn't fall within the parameters of Dover, we cannot insist on getting that as part of a site plan. So
Where
what
does
do you
it-
mean by site plan?
Where does it say that in our bylaw?
It doesn't have
Dover.
to say that in our bylaw. Dover,
All right,
Dover
it
says
doesn't.
we can't demand anything that is not relevant to the matters we can regulate under Dover.
We can regulate setbacks,
No.
can't we?
Yes.
We don't have a stamped plan to allow us to conclusively decide that the setbacks are acceptable or compliant.
Yes, it is. What I'm not going to try to look it up right this moment, but there's a long list of things that we include in what we ask for in a site plan. Not all of those will be applicable in this case.
Well, I don't know, well, you gotta figure, you gotta work all that out, I suppose. But I think setbacks and abutters, have to
That's
be
an
shown.
example of something I don't think we can ask for under Dover, abutters.
We can't.
Site plan shows, you
Just
know, have
just
to
a
know,
dimension-
people have
dimensional
to
site
know,
plan.
what?
We can ask for a dimensional site plan.
Yes.
And that's,
Yes,
and
yes,
that's
right.
really all we're saying.
Yeah, but they have to
Dimensional
come
site-
up with the money to do it.
But I understand. I understand, but you're also purchasing this building and you're working with a bank and all of that's gotta happen, so.
We're not purchasing the building yet.
No,
we
I
want to make
understand that,
sure
but
that
you're-
we can
Yeah,
So is your,
So-
just to be clear, so is your concern that the use as a daycare center wouldn't be allowed completely, or is there specific things about how you want to place the playground and such on it that you're worried about?
I know the use is allowed.
Yeah.
I know there is a need. Community needs it.
Yeah.
I know there is a need in Grafton for a daycare.
Yeah.
That piece was part of my feasibility study, and I did that.
Yeah.
So I understand all that pieces. My concern is that if the project gets stuck, we move forward with the project, buy the building, everything, but the project is stuck in the details and the planning board hasn't approved it, or we don't get the construction permit, then we are paying mortgage, which is a huge amount, and we are paying it every month and still trying to figure out the planning and construction
Yeah.
pieces of it.
So
for
I think just quickly,
us-
I would also add my, like, I support the use. I think everybody supports the use. I think what I'm hearing is the document you've submitted, the actual document, isn't up to the standard of what a site plan needs to be for us to approve it. So we can't discuss our way around the document, so you can either, I think what people are saying is you can either move forward with your process knowing you'll get the use and that the rest of it is just a conversation about getting the other pieces in there, or you've got to come back with a document that can get approved, because we don't have that right now. I don't know. We talked in a circle around it for a
Yeah,
while.
no, yeah.
So can we give the applicant like exactly what they need to have in the document, and then they can make their choice about if they want to move forward knowing they'll get the use, or if they want to pay to have the document created?
So if you look at section 133D, the site plans under site plan approval, there are 31 items that are listed as being required as part of the site plan, prepared by a professional architect or registered professional engineer. Now, quite a few of those we can't ask for under Dover, but some of them we can. So the essentials again are the property lines, setbacks. So, I mean, we can go through that list. You can go.
8 things.
8 things.
The 8 things are what we got to focus on, and those details need to be added. Not all the extra, but
Right.
the board's point is that, and even for your mortgage, I think you might need to do it anyway. But I think if you can provide, if you could get stamped set of plans with the setback area included, with some of with the parking details, and at least with the property lines, those 3 things seem to be the kind of core criteria that they're asking for.
Have you seen a deed?
Yes.
The diocese should have a deed, and it should describe the property.
There is a deed from 1850
I don't.
that I kind of looked.
I
It was written in cursive, very hard to read.
Well, but it's a deed, and it probably has numbers on it.
Dimensions.
Yes, it has latitudes and it has numbers. Latitudes and
All right,
longitudes to
that might
define
be
the
helpful,
property.
but my other thing is, the diocese is interested in selling this to you. Maybe the diocese should document what they're selling to you.
They said no.
And that's because,
They don't want to spend any money on creating a site plan.
so they don't want to sell it very badly.
No, they do. Trust me.
Yeah.
Well,
Do
maybe
wanna-
someone needs to have a conversation.
Well, generally speaking, I think when you're selling a property,
You don't.
it's assumed that the description in the deed is adequate.
Correct. And the purchaser does all of the drawings.
Really?
In this case, I think we've kind of nailed down the minimum of what we need to see on a plan.
Setbacks.
Yeah, and
Right.
forget that long list of things in 133D. I think Fiona can go through that list and point, these are the things that the board that the board needs to see.
Okay.
And it's not it's not the level of detail we typically see on a site plan, with things like landscaping, proposed signs, wetlands, all that stuff. But it's just enough. I mean, I think we're probably almost, that horse is almost dead, I think. But if Fiona, you're clear on what the board is looking for here?
But-
And, and hopefully we can, between the two of you, you can figure out what's the least amount of work you have to do to provide us with the documentation we need.
But
Absolutely.
if I may, but it won't be a stamped set of plans,
Well,
is what she's saying.
Dave
so.
just read over a requirement that I don't think Dover overrides, which is stamped by a registered blah, blah, blah.
Right, I just don't want to have, if the architect puts in a line and puts in a measurement the next
That-
time and it's still not, what they're asking for. I just want to make sure that's.
I think
really
we need to
clear.
provide, like, separate from this conversation, because it's hard to hold it all in your head. In writing, exactly what needs to happen for the submittal of a new document, and then the applicant can make their decision about how they do that, because it's just tough to follow all of it.
Submit a site plan that's compliant with our bylaw.
No, that's
Right, but there's sort of a subset of items.
Well,
Fiona can point to.
They can work that out.
Yeah.
But, Ray, why couldn't the diocese lend her the money to get the plan?
That's not gonna happen, Bob.
The diocese can't possibly want to
Right.
sell this.
I have so many comments.
And
on
by the
this
way,
angle.
an architect, and I just want to say this, an architect can do a site plan, but they can't stamp it as a civil engineer. So an architect can stamp it, but it's not, unless it's a civil engineer that has done it. It doesn't really mean much.
How do we
That's
get
the
site
problem.
plans in general?
They're normally stamped by both.
No, but these people have a problem having a site plan before they buy.
Yeah.
Everybody that comes in here is
Same problem.
looking to get, a special permit or a site plan or whatever. They're all required to have that, and they haven't purchased the property yet. And what they have to, they put the money up.
Yes, I do know some architects, and architecture firms may have a civil engineer on their staff.
Correct.
They may also have someone in particular they typically work with. They might literally share the plans they have with the civil engineer, and it might, in some cases, it could save you money. It might not. I don't know, but that's how I. To answer the question, how do they get one? That's one avenue that could be pursued.
Okay, well, what now?
So we need to understand, we need playground setbacks information, and we need property lines.
You need
Right.
a
Yeah.
stamped site plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking for what's the least amount of work the applicant can do to provide the board with the information it needs. And basically, again, we're looking at the differences from the current use, the current Dover use to the proposed new Dover use. What's different? Two things. The addition of the playground and how that relates to our regulations is we need to have documentation that it meets the setback requirements. And we have the parking. We need documentation sufficient to show us that there is at least enough parking for the proposed use. And as you've described,
Right.
you've got a calculation showing how much parking you need. You've got a parking area that pretty clearly accommodates more than that.
So do we need anything more for parking than what we have already provided in the narrative and the documents?
Just the
Property
lines and setbacks to the parking.
Yeah,
The bylaw says stamped by,
Registered professional engineer.
if
the bylaw,
if I, that's a required submission item. And, we don't have any power to overlook it.
actually, the bylaw says prepared by a professional architect or registered professional engineer. I don't see in 133D anywhere where it says it has to be stamped. If you want to get, You want to be,
I wouldn't, yeah, I think they should be stamped plans, always. There's professional certification.
Yeah, nobody's gonna
Yeah.
put those drawings out there without stamping it.
yeah, a professional architect would.
Oh, is that right? They wouldn't put their name as the person who drew it.
Yeah.
They might give you a drawing.
Yeah.
But if you're worried about a civil engineer, the site plan can be prepared by a professional architect and not a professional engineer.
But it has to get stamped.
Whatever it takes for the architect to stamp. And I don't know. I mean, if what you're saying is
You gotta have both.
the architect never stamps his plans on his own,
Site plans? No.
plans prepared by an architect.
Plans, yes, not site plans.
We got like 4 dead horses at our feet right now.
I would,
Yeah, Bree's right.
I told Linda I'd be home much earlier tonight.
I gotta tell you, if you come back the next time and you bring all the stuff that we're asking, that the
We're
board's
done.
asking, we're gonna be in and out of here in 5 minutes.
yep.
And we'll give you a big hug and wish you well.
Do you think she can get a plan done in that much time?
So our next meeting, as I said earlier, is December 22nd. That is potentially very, very tight for getting a stamp plan.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Especially if you have to figure out. how you're
Yeah.
gonna-
It's possible, but it is tight. Like I said, the next one after that is January 12th, I think I said.
Yes,
And-
January 12th.
That
And their
then brings
feasibility
us very
study's
tight to your current due diligence deadline. So it is, if you do say you wanted to continue to December 22nd and you're not ready but you think you're close, you can easily ask staff to continue the hearing like we've done in the past, and that
Okay.
can be done. The alternative, we can just go straight to January if you wanted. If we go, we can't control your deadlines, and
Right.
we have the things we need to meet. But beyond that, it's really up to you and how we proceed.
Okay, so we'll continue for December 22nd, and we'll try to get the documents. That's
So I move that the board grant the applicant's forthcoming written request to continue this hearing till December 22nd at 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted unanimously. We'll get through this. Believe me. No. Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
she's got a form to sign. All right, I don't think there's anything else that can lawfully come before us.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, not debatable. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So voted.
We'll have to sign the form she's getting ready